The two men who buried Jesus, what may have gone on through their minds? In the narrative of the Passion, two figures emerge from the shadows of the ruling elite to perform an act of startling devotion: Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea. While the disciples had fled, these two members of the Sanhedrin stepped forward to claim the body of Jesus. Their actions were not merely a burial, they were a visceral, public confession of faith that fulfilled ancient prophecy and bridged the gap between the Old Covenant and the New. As a teacher of Israel, Nicodemus was an expert in the Hebrew Scriptures. It is highly probable that as he approached the cross, the words of Isaiah 53 were ringing in his ears. He might have remembered the two phrases, "pierced for our transgressions," and the other phrase, "with the rich in his death." By providing a private rock-hewn tomb and 75 pounds of royal spices, Nicodemus and Joseph ensured that Jesus was treated as a king rather than a common criminal. This was likely a conscious act. Nicodemus would have remembered Jesus' own prophecy from their secret midnight meeting, that the Son of Man must be lifted up like the serpent in the wilderness. Seeing Jesus physically lifted on the cross and then lowered into his arms likely served as the final confirmation that Jesus was the Lamb of God he had studied in the law. One of the most striking aspects of this event is the physical reality of the burial. To prepare Jesus for the tomb, Nicodemus and Joseph had to physically handle a body covered in blood and water. In doing so, they became ritually unclean for 7 days, disqualifying themselves from the very Passover festivities they had spent their lives overseeing. There's a profound theological irony here. While the religious establishment sought purity through ritual distance, Nicodemus and Joseph found true cleansing through physical contact. They were the only two men who, by their actions, said, "I want to be covered by the blood." As they washed the stripes by which Isaiah said we are healed, they were literally immersed in the sacrifice of the Lamb. They traded their social standing and religious purity for a public identification with the Messiah. The silent sermon of the linens. The story concludes with a subtle but powerful detail: the folded burial cloths left in the empty tomb. To the average observer, this was a sign of a calm departure. To Nicodemus and Joseph, it was a personal message. Having spent hours carefully wrapping Jesus in those very linens, hearing that they were found neatly folded would have been earth-shattering. This act of folding the cloths suggests that Jesus did not discard the gift of his friends with haste or indifference. Rather, he treated their sacrifice with dignity. By setting the face cloth aside in a place by itself, he signaled that the work of death was finished and the burial garments were no longer needed. For Joseph and Nicodemus, the news of the orderly tomb would have transformed their bloody, sorrowful Friday into the realization that they had served the living God. Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea stand as the bridge between the secret seeker and the bold confessor. They were men who risked everything, their reputation, their wealth, and their religious standing, to touch the wounds of Christ. In the quiet of the tomb and the messiness of the blood, they found a reality that the halls of the Sanhedrin could never provide: the fulfillment of the law in the person of Jesus.